Renault, 9th overall, 8 points scored. The team of Kevin Magnussen and Jolyon Palmer. Best result was that 7th place driver of the day performance that Kevin Magnussen had in Russia. I think that was from 18th on the grid to finish in 7th. So, I mean, that kind of just sums up Renault's season. It was a couple of flashes in the pan because, and overall, just not great.
Well, this is where I'm probably going to make myself unpopular with certain parts of the fan base, but for me, I'm harsher on them than I am on the previous two teams because they're a factory team. And they actually did worse than Lotus last year, who spent half the year wondering if they'd be able to get into their own trucks or whether they'd be impounded by bailiffs again.
Yeah,
you see what I mean?
Absolutely. It's just one of those things where...
I know they were just returning to the series, like it's a first-time thing, but for a factory team and that sort of development behind them, you got to feel like you should expect more. You know what I mean? Like, Haas outperform them. You just should. I mean, they are,
I don't think it's unfair to say I expected more from Renault this year.
No, I think we all expected a slow start, but then the improvement just never came.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And considering we were talking about, the engine troubles, and we'll come back to this later, obviously, but the whole divorce from Red Bull with the engine saga and everything, and everyone's like, oh, Renault are going to have their own engines, and Red Bull are going to be in trouble because they've never been an engine team, really.
Yeah.
Red Bull didn't, if anything, Red Bull were better off this year, and Renault didn't really have anything to do with it. I don't know if it was just an inexperienced driver lineup, but for me, it just sort of felt like they were just sort of there. And for a factory team, that's a real disappointment.
Mm-hmm. That's the impression I got. I mean, like I said, Magnussen had the 7th place in Russia. I do remember Jolyon Palmer started really well out of the box in Australia. He was rubbing it up with Valtteri Bottas. It was a great little fight he had, and Palmer was showing some fight, and I was like, oh, good for him. It was like he's doing all right out there. Finished 11th, was unlucky not to score points on his debut. His point did come down the road in Malaysia in the end, his first F1 point. Again, only one other point scoring driver for the year, and that was Magnussen's 10th in Singapore. Again, another great drive because that was from 18th on the grid. And it's like, King, it's like, this wasn't completely terrible for Renault, but it's kind of disappointing given, I mean, I'm sure Renault would not want to have finished 9th this year. Let's put it that way. Not even close.
Not even did they not finish
last year.
Yeah, not only did they finish 9th in the championship, they didn't even break into double-digit points. They only scored 8 points all year.
8 points. And the team above them, Haas, a brand new team built from the ground up, had 29.
An independent. That's not a good look at all, and it's a shame because I think Renault is a team that a lot of people want to do well. Magnussen is a driver that a lot of people want to see him do well because, I think honestly bringing in Hulkenberg next year as sort of a genuine franchise player figurehead sort of thing for the team will help.
Absolutely.
And maybe renewed investment will aid that as well, but I don't know. This year the driver lineup felt too inexperienced for a factory team going all in guns blazing.
Yeah. And the car just never really got any better, and it's not. I know Red Bull's got a
it just plateaued, didn't it? It just never got any better. You're right.
I know Red Bull has got a much bigger budget, and they're not really Renault engines, but we all know they are with Tag Heuer. But I mean, they had 468 points this year, and Renault, the team that built their engines, had 8. It's. I know for various reasons, it's not the same thing. It's not a totally fair comparison, but it only highlights to emphasise just how bad Renault's season was in the grand scheme of things.
Like I say, for a factory team, you should expect far more.
Exactly. I think it's not unfair to suggest that Renault should have done better. So, yeah, overall team score for them?
Honestly, I'm around a 3 or a 4.
I'm thinking 3. I think they might be the worst team in the field pound for pound.
Yeah, pound for pound. If we're talking pound for pound, then yeah, worst team.
Yeah, I mean, for what it was, I found that to be quite disappointing. So yeah, Renault, 3 out of 10 from us on this one, 9th overall.